Right, okay. Work's done. Housework's done. I can finally sit down and play Resident Evil Requiem. Oh no. What is going on, guys? Jack here, and welcome to Jack Does Gaming, and today we're going to be talking about not one, but two Resident Evil games, Resident Evil Biohazard and Resident Evil Village. I was going to be doing the Requiem review straight away when the game came out, but I thought I want to do 7 and 8 first because this is a part of that iteration of Resident Evil since Capcom relaunched it in 2017. So I felt like I had to get 7 and 8 out the way. Now, while I don't have the greatest opinion of 7, I am hoping that this will change that. I really do like Resident Evil 8, that opinion has not changed, but 7's the one that's gonna require a bit of work. So join me as we enter the world of Resident Evil 7 and 8. Crap intro. Resident Evil 7 was a hard reset for the franchise, dropping the Michael Bay-esque mayhem for a more grounded approach to the survival horror genre, and while I believe that Resi 6 is an awful Resident Evil game, it's by no means an awful action game. It's just more tiring than anything, and this was a much needed reset. It effectively returned to what made Resident Evil so great, and while adding a few new things along the way and mixing up who's involved in the story and what takes place. This game, rather following a familiar set of characters, has introduced brand new faces for us to get to know and spend time with. Unfortunately though, aside from the Baker family and maybe Eve, everyone else is just so boring, especially you, Mia. You're the worst offender of all. You play as Ethan Winters, a somewhat normal guy who had lost his girlfriend Mia some years prior to the events of the game, and presumed she was dead. However, she's now resurfaced in Dulville, Louisiana, and it isn't exactly what she seems. He travels to Louisiana and discovers the Baker family have kidnapped her and infected her with something called the mold, which we'll learn more about later. Ethan eventually deals with Mia, but then is kidnapped and trapped in the house, and this is where things take a funky turn. Trapped in the house with only your know-how and the occasional herb, you explore and solve puzzles while either avoiding or killing enemies as you go along, and this is very much in a standard Resident Evil style fashion. Jack, Baker and the rest of the family operate as the stalkers of the game, much like Nemesis or Mr. X, albeit they're somewhat less free of AI and are unfortunately a scripted encounter in certain locations like the main house or the guest house. Lucas's area operates almost like a saw trap, and while you don't deal with him directly, it does set him up as a recurring threat in the DLC for the game. Where main characters like Chris, Jill and Leon have all come from action-orientated backgrounds, Ethan does not, and it's a normal guy and is as boring as they come. The dude's just a civilian in the wrong place at the wrong time, and while I don't really like Ethan in this game, the groundwork for actual development is there, but the game just does not have the payoff for his character until the next game. The location that the game takes place in is great, and it almost feels like Outlast, and to this day I maintain that Outlast was a massive influence on Capcom's decision to strip the series back and go back to how it was. Only this time now from a first-person perspective. You start off in the swamps of Louisiana and go all the way to an abandoned ship in hopes of solving this mystery and finding out what went down with Mia and why the family are out to get you. This game in VR was something else, and it's a shame that the PS5 version of the game does not utilise the PSVR 2 because it still holds up really well on VR. So let's talk about the Baker family more. How are they compared to Resident Evil enemies of old? Honestly, they're pretty great. Jack Baker's the father, Marguerite's the mother, and Lucas is the son, and Zoe's the daughter, but she is the only one who's on your side. There's also Grandma, but we don't talk about her.
Back off, ya spooky bitch!
The family are absolutely batshit crazy and will stop at nothing to convert you and infect you with the mold, produced by the game's big bad, Eve. She's a sadistic little girl with a twisted view on what a family should be. All this begs the question, what exactly is Mia's job? Well, it's something that's kind of up in the air, especially where Ethan's concerned. The plot for the game doesn't lay it on thick at all from the get-go. There's story beats woven through that eventually do all connect, and it makes you go from, how is this Resident Evil, to, oh wow, this is absolutely Resident Evil. And that was something since since the launch of the game. I'd always wondered, how exactly is this Resident Evil? The mold acts as its namesake, a mold that infects people and allows the original bioweapon, Eve, total control over its victims. I've just realised, it's not Eve, it's Evelyn. Fuck it, we move. The mold drives the victims towards insanity and shifts their bodies from normal to fucked up over time. Jack has insane strength and durability, Marguerite has the ability to create bugs and become a lot more monstrous, and Lucas is just an insanely talented engineer with a talent for death traps and puzzles. As well as the Baker family, you do have enemies that are made directly from the mold, and these are honestly some of the most basic, bland, beige designs of enemies I think I've ever seen in a game. Think putty patrollers from Power Rangers, but somehow worse. The logic behind Resident Evil gets well and truly tested in this game, where instead of herbs being combined together to form one big super herb, you have actual medicine that can somehow heal everything just by pouring it over your hand. There's a moment early on where Ethan literally loses a leg. Using the first aid medicine, it reattaches no problem, at least that's how it's presented again until Village, where they do address it, and what is possibly my favourite twist ever in the franchise. The game does feel quite tropey in parts, but this is a core feature of Resident Evil, so I give that one a pass. It's like a George Romero zombie mayhem movie with a little bit of Tucker and Dale versus Evil. The boss fights in the game are okay, they don't really mix things up. They're not awful, they're just samey. If I had to pick a favourite one, it's probably going to be the encounter with Jack in the garage. Using the car to run him over and then blow him the fuck up was sweet. I asked the question again, how does anyone get anything done in the world of Resident Evil? Want to open the door? Too bad, because you need 3 dog heads that are scattered across the house. One of them's in a book in the rec room, one of them's in the clock in the living room, and one of them's in the basement. I swear to God, who came up with the locations? Did they just pull it out of a hat and go, yes, there? Instead of a book, if you'd have pulled one and said, put it in the vegetable drawer, I would never have looked there. But to its credit though, there are some puzzles here where you do have to make a shape against a shadow backdrop to unlock a door, and it's really creative. The weapons you receive as well, very much a repeat of how you would get them in earlier games. For example, a shotgun can be obtained by grabbing the broken version and replacing it on the statue so that you can grab the working one and still be able to leave. The best weapon for me by far is the Albert 01. It's a ridiculously powered weapon and was a godsend on Madhouse difficulty along with the buzzsaw. You also have 2 forms of collectibles in the game, antique coins and Mr. Everywhere bobbleheads. The coins come in handy for upgrades but do take up inventory space, so management there is crucial. The Mr. Everywhere bobbleheads are, well, everywhere, and they can be destroyed either by shooting them or hitting them with your knife. On Madhouse difficulty, the coin locations do change, so it's an extra layer of challenge that I welcome. The game also utilises a VHS tape feature that allows you to experience flashback moments as different characters. And while it's an interesting feature, it can lead to serious fatigue, especially when it comes to exploring the shipwreck in the second half of the game, because that section is where the game loses me. Part of this comes down to how Ethan moves in the game too. He's so damn slow from the get-go, and over time you can collect the antique coins to buy upgrades and buff him ever so slightly. Despite this though, it doesn't really feel worth it as it's not much of an improvement. Item boxes are a thing here, and it's handy to store items that you either don't need or store items that you think will come in handy later on. You can also collect rucksacks that will increase storage space for Ethan and will allow him to carry more items. It's an absolute godsend. In place of typewriters you have a phone, I think? It looks like a voicemail machine? Well, whatever it is, it's a different approach and I like it. On the hardest difficulty, you need these little tapes to save, and it's very reminiscent of the ink ribbons. The music in the game is great too, and the use of the song Aunt Rhody is truly genius stuff. I mean, the use of the song dates back all the way to the initial reveal trailer back at E3 in 2016. Just have a look at this. The banned footage DLC for the game was pretty cool and expanded the lore of the Bakers in a really heartfelt, tragic way. Evelyn well and truly corrupted this family, and seeing how they were before the infection was heartbreaking. Jack was a caring but tough father who loved his family, and Marguerite was a loving mother who just saw the best in people. Lucas was always a bit of a bad egg, but he was more mischievous than he was psychotic. In the DLC Not a Hero, you play as Chris, and finally put Lucas to rest. The DLC wasn't that great, but End of Zoe, Hot diggity dog, that was fun. Throughout the game, you're contacted by Zoe, who knows of a cure and intends to escape Dulvey. Once you've assembled the cure and escape, you're left with a tough choice. Cure Zoe or cure Mia. Unfortunately, it's a choice that has no effect on the ending of the game, and it'll always lead you down the same path, which is a shame, because that would have been interesting to have a split storyline. I'm all for canon, non-canon endings in games because I feel like it really adds to the replayability, something that Resident Evil is very much known for. Also, I don't care what anyone says, this is not Chris Redfield, and I will die on that hill. You can see where Capcom really wanted to experiment and try out new stuff, while also bringing back what people knew about Resident Evil. Sometimes it works and sometimes it really doesn't. I mean, is it a scary game? For me, no, not really. But I know people who played it and they were terrified. Outlast is one I do consider to be scarier than Resident Evil 7, because to reiterate, I feel like if we didn't have Outlast, we would not be experiencing Resident Evil the way that we do now. Do I also think that Resident Evil in first person is a good idea? Yes and no. But this is a topic I will cover in my review for Resident Evil Requiem next week. Resident Evil 7 isn't an overly long game, however it definitely overstays its welcome, with some sections really feeling like they're just there to pad out the runtime, and sadly, this is something that does follow us over into Resident Evil Village. Maybe, hopefully, that Capcom are going to be really nice to me here, and because I took the time to review 7, maybe I don't have to play 8. Maybe they can just kind of let me go straight to Requiem. So let's try it. Oh no! Resident Evil Village is a good ass time, man. The game came out 5 years after Resident Evil 7, and you can see that they took every bit of feedback on board as best they could and gave us an experience like never before. Following on from the 7th entry, Ethan and Mia have gotten married and moved to Europe with their daughter Rose. Ethan is worried that Mia is choosing to ignore the events that took place 3 years earlier. Mia's still a horrible character here, and thankfully one night Chris, who's now looking jacked as shit, rocks up, kills Mia and takes Rose away from Ethan, who ends up also being taken away and moved elsewhere. Along the way, the convoy's hijacked and crashes outside a remote village that's home to an isolated community, and you guessed it, monsters and supernatural spooks. Enter Mother Miranda, an all-powerful bioweapon hell-bent on using the mold to strengthen her hold on everything around her. Do you remember the mold from Resi 7? Yeah, well, we're not done with it yet. The mold in this game is so much more interesting than it was in 7. You finally learn about its origins and what its purpose is, but for now let's redirect to how the mold is involved here. I present to you the Lycans. A mixture of the mold and a parasite called Kadu gives birth to the creatures that inhabit the village. Some died and some survived. Those who survived were forever changed. When Resident Evil was in development, Capcom had alluded to the fact that there was going to be a more supernatural gothic take on the story that involved vampires and werewolves, and I can't lie, I was well up for it. And seeing how they've done it, I was not disappointed. Upon entering the village, we're introduced quickly to these beasties and eventually get tangled up in Mother Miranda's weird little family. Carl Heisenberg, who can control metal, Victor Moreau, who has horribly mutated into a human fish creature, Donna Beneviento and Angie act as like a puppet-puppeteer combo who are as dangerous as they look. And lastly, we have the absolute goddess herself, the vampire queen, whatever you want to call her, Lady Dimitrescu, who I can't lie, I would gladly let stomp me. But what does all this have to do with Ethan? Can't he catch a break? Sadly not, as this is the last time we see the world of Resident Evil through Ethan's eyes. Or in my case, the back of his head. Okay, let's start off with the location. I love this so much. The game calls back to Resident Evil 4 in a lot of ways, from the location to the use of the Duke, who acts as this game's merchant. It just feels right at home, and the Duke even mentions the merchant during one of his conversations with Ethan, and it really opened up the idea that they've absolutely met. The inventory system looks straight out of Resident Evil 4's briefcase layout, and while not being as in-depth as that design, it was still cool to see. The location does also remind me of Van Helsing a little bit, and it's now made me want to watch it. Go watch Van Helsing, it's a great film. Actually, finish this video first before you do. Please and thanks, hon. Ethan's fantastic in this game, and as mentioned earlier, his development in 7 was truly stiff. I didn't enjoy my time with him. Here though, he is one tough son of a bitch. Ethan well and truly took a charisma pill and became one of the most interesting characters the series has churned out over the past 30 years. Armed to the teeth with the desire to save his daughter, he enters the village and plans to bring her home. The game follows a similar format to 7 in that you visit different locations in the village and deal with each member of Mother Miranda's family one by one, collecting these flasks and reassembling Rose. I wish I was making this up, but that's genuinely what you do. I told you, logic takes a hit in the franchise and the science in this game is cranked up all the way to 11. The best location 100% is Lady D's castle. It's very vibrant and reminiscent of the Spencer Mansion from Resident Evil 1. You cover a lot of ground in Village, and I'm surprised it wasn't a PS5 series exclusive, because it's easily one of the biggest games to date in the series. No way, you get a fucking lightsaber, that's so sick. Vroom, 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 vroom. Vroom, 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 vroom. The enemies in this game actually have a bit of variety outside of the same design for 3 different enemy types. As mentioned, you have lycans, vampires, cyborg zombies, just to name a few, and the boss fights are easily some of the best that Capcom have ever done for the franchise. Lady D's is like something out of a Soulsborne game. Donna and Angie's is really a twisted game of hide and seek with some truly terrifying puzzle solving in between. Moreau's is probably the weakest out the lot, as this is just a straight up gunfight, but every game's got one of those. Heisenberg's is super creative and feels like something ripped straight out of Resident Evil 5. And of course, Mother Miranda is a gauntlet of mutations and attack switch ups that can really catch you off guard and end you if you aren't careful. Chris Redfield is a big beefy boy and plays a somewhat big part of the story, almost acting as the anchor between Ethan and Mother Miranda. For so long I wondered whether Chris was truly good here, or simply put, a bit evil, because he's definitely hiding something here in the game, and over time you find out what Chris has going on and suddenly everything makes sense. He was the first legacy character to show up again in the franchise from a mainline entry perspective, and he's far removed from the young naive STARS member you saw in Resident Evil 1. He's now the leader of a group called Hound Wolf Squad and is hell-bent on getting the job done, no matter the cost. The story's jam-packed and full of what the fuck moments that will truly have you wanting more, and it's also a super heavy experience when it wants to be. The themes of family, love and resilience are at the strongest here, and you really get a feel for how much Mia and Rose mean to Ethan, and it tugs at your heartstrings a little. The gunplay in Village is fantastic, and it's definitely far removed from the clunkiness that 7 had boasted. The haptic feedback on the PS5 controller adds to it, and it makes using the guns feel so immersive. Puzzles return in Village, and I feel like they're a direct callback to the puzzles from the OG trilogy, especially this one in Lady D's castle. The best puzzle in the game is the section with Angie. That sequence was just nightmare fuel, and I loved every minute of it. Lady D is very much this game's stalker enemy, and while only being there in the first proper area of the game, she's so damn cool, and I understand now why people prefer to be chased rather than just play the game. This rule also applies to the daughters. Wow. The game definitely leans more towards action, but there are still plenty of survival horror moments to sink your teeth into, and looking back on it you can see that they've definitely paved the way for Requiem to be the game that it is. Much like 7 with the shipwreck, I hate that I can't stand Heisenberg's factory in this game. It goes on for too long and it should have ended a lot quicker.
Oh, we were right there, man!
Heisenberg, ironically though, is my favourite character from Village, and Neil Newbern absolutely kills it, both as Heisenberg and as Nikolai from the remake of Resident Evil 3. This is probably the first Resident Evil game since 4 for me that felt well and truly like a Resident Evil game. I don't exactly know why, but if I had to hazard a guess, I would say it was down to the use of the bioweapon element and how they incorporate it into the overarching story of the Ethan Winters saga, and by extension the larger world of Resident Evil, while maintaining that aesthetic and grounded approach to survival horror. The DLC for the game was really good, and it does lead into what I consider spoiler territory, so if you don't want the ending of Village spoiled, then jump to this timestamp. If you don't care, then ooh, you're odd. The last chunk of Village is just action, heartbreak and finality all rolled into one. After defeating Heisenberg, you are visited by Mother Miranda, who, after revealing that she's been toying with Ethan the whole time by posing as Mia and the crazy hag lady and guiding you towards bringing Rose to her, she rips out Ethan's still beating heart and leaves him for dead. From the get-go, Mother Miranda has been manipulating Ethan. It was never Mia in the kitchen at the start of the game, that was Mother Miranda, and that's why Chris rocked up, killed her, because he knew something was wrong. Mother Miranda was the leader of the village from 1990 to 2021, and she'd lost her daughter due to the Spanish flu. She discovered and became infected with the mold in a cave not far from the village and decided to use it to experiment on villagers over the years in hopes of reviving her daughter. This ties into the events of Resident Evil 7, as you soon find out that Evelyn is the result of Miranda's work. While she did not create Umbrella, she is an indirect influence on its inception due to mentoring Oz Spencer in the 1950s. Resident Evil Village truly built upon the lore and made it go deeper than it ever did initially. But what's this? Ethan's still moving. How can that be? Well, remember in 7 when Ethan was knocked out by Jack Baker and kidnapped? Well, he wasn't just kidnapped. He died, there and then, and became a mold copy of Ethan. He retained his memories and everything else that came with the package. Remember being able to stick your hand back on and have it working again like it never happened? Well, this is exactly why. Ethan's been dead this entire time. But now that his heart's been ripped from him, he's on borrowed time and he's slowly dying. We get a cool section where we play as Chris and take down what is known as the Megamycete, the root of all things mold in the village. Destroying the Megamycete stops the mold from spreading, and through Ethan's efforts to defeat Mother Miranda, saves Rose and Mia and sacrifices himself to stop the mold from coming back for good. This is the first moment in the game you can really tell that beneath Chris's hard exterior, this absolutely crushed him. And it reminded him that the mission has to be completed, no matter the cost. We get a juicy setup for the BSAA doing something they should definitely not be doing, and Chris takes it upon himself to investigate. We are then greeted with this message: the father's story is done, and it signals that we have seen the last of Ethan Winter's story. No more mold, no more Megamycete, and thankfully no more Mia. The DLC for Village focuses on Rose, who's now all grown up and is exhibiting powers relating to the mold. Despite only really having like a 3 to 4 hour playtime with her, she holds up really well and is an amazing addition to the lineup of protagonists. Capcom just doesn't seem to be missing at the moment, and it's so nice to see Resident Evil make a comeback. Despite stumbling along the way with Resident Evil 7, it does a lot more right than it does wrong, and that also applies to Village. I'm thankful to be able to experience the games again in the build up to Requiem, and I can't wait to see where the story takes us next. If Requiem is in fact the last mainline entry, then Capcom, it's really been a blast, and thank you for allowing me to be a part of your Resident Evil community. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the review for Resident Evil 7 and 8, and was there anything that I may have missed out? Sound off below and let me know. What are your guys' thoughts on Resident Evil 7 and 8? Do you love them? Do you hate them? Do you think that they're good additions to the franchise? Sound off below, let me know. I've said that so much in the past 10 seconds, but now we are able to crack on with Resident Evil Requiem. The review for that will be coming out next week, so keep an eye out for that, guys. But as for now, it's goodbye from me and goodbye from Storm. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you all soon.